Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to another Big Data London webinar. And Happy New Year, as it's the first instalment of 2021. So today I'm joined by Spar and Trifacta, and we're going to be talking about data preparation on some of the work that they've been doing. I'm Andy Steed, Content Director of Big Data London, and today I'm joined by Dharshini from Spar. Hello, Dharshini.
Hi, everyone.
Tom from Spar. Hi, Tom.
Hi.
And Matt from Trifacta. Hello. So these sessions are designed to be interactive. Please send in your questions in the question box below, and we'll endeavour to get to them in the Q&A section we've got dedicated after the presentations. Should there be any interruption of your service, there shouldn't be, but if there is, just refresh your browser and you should jump back in. I do realise lots of people will be joining with children on virtual lessons and all sorts of drains on your bandwidth, so best of luck with you there. However, without further ado, it's time to throw over to our first presenter of the day. So over to you, Matt.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. I will get the presentation. Oops. Hang on one second. There we go. All right. And you can see it, right, Andy?
Yeah, we're all good. All good to go.
All right. All right. So today we have, myself. I'm a senior product manager at Trifacta. I've been with the company for 5 years, and just a quick, interesting fact about myself. I was actually a Trifacta user. I was a data analyst at Pepsi using Trifacta. So I actually was using the product in practice and actually solving a very similar problem to what Tom and Dharshini are going to talk about at Pepsi that they were solving at Spar. So through this whole process, we actually had a lot to talk about. So joining us today, we have Tom Rose, who's the head of international operations, and then Dharshini, who's a business analyst. So in my previous role, I was Dharshini, actually solving this problem and working with similar data. So I think this is a really interesting use case, and Dharshini is actually going to show videos and things like that on how she actually solved the problem. So it's going to be, I think it's going to be very interesting, and I hope you think the same. I'm just going to do at the very top just a very, very quick introduction of Trifacta, so you know what our platform's all about. Then we're going to learn more about Spar as a company and their data lake project, which is where they used Trifacta on AWS. And then finally, we will have some Q&A. So to start off with Trifacta. So everybody's who's watching this is probably very familiar with some data points you've heard around data preparation. So 80% of the time is cleaning and preparing the data, and 20% of the time is actually analyzing it, or 80% of the time is spent complaining about the data. However you've heard it, it's a very common problem that creates a bottleneck within the organization, whether you're a data engineer, a data scientist, a data analyst, anybody. So you're taking data from various platforms, and in current modernization, a lot of that data is being pushed to the cloud. But typically it resides in all different types of places, and you're wanting to bring that downstream to be used for various use cases, which can be bringing in third-party data from customers, or like a third-party platform like Spar is going to cover today, Nielsen data, or ML or data science or AI, or even a visualization representation of the data in a BI or dashboard or Tableau. So getting value out of the data is typically requires a heavy lift and is usually a majority of the time. So that's what Trifacta tries to solve. And we do that through self-service, speed, and cloud. So we want to empower the people who know the data best while also maintaining the proper governance and lineage. So it's not just a free for all, but the way that we do that, and you're actually going to see how the product works at the end of this, but we have a very intuitive visual interface. It is set up in a very familiar grid-like style. So visually, it already looks familiar when you're looking at your data. And also we have self-documenting lineage. Every transformation or anything that's done to the data is tracked in what we call a recipe. And so you can see the whole story of the data. Speed, so we, when you interact with the data, you get instant previews and you can see issues automatically. So if you click on something in the data, if you highlight it, Trifacta actually infers with ML-driven suggestions what you want to do with the data. So if you think of any kind of, if you're familiar with doing processes in code or even like something like Microsoft Access, you'd have to write everything, run it at scale, and then see if that works. And then you'd have to make changes and do the whole process over again. So we do this in real time, so you can iterate faster and get to a productionalized version quickly. And then once you're done with that, you can actually automate data pipelines. So you can schedule the whole process from receiving of the data to publishing the data. You can share it with your colleagues. You can test and do version control. So hopefully all of this leads to you putting your workflows into production faster. And then finally, we are a cloud platform. And as you're going to see today, Spar is using Trifacta on AWS. And we're very, very integrated with the AWS architecture, and we're available on the AWS marketplace. We can scale data of any size, and also if security is a concern, we inherit the security model of your data lake or cloud infrastructure that's already in place. And you can see here just a quick visual representation of how Trifacta works in a typical AWS architecture. And this also includes, an architecture that would include Snowflake for data warehouse. And then just wrapping up here, I call this the humble brag slide. So this is just a very, very quick kind of bragging about Trifacta as a company. We are the best in class data preparation platform on the market. And we're not just saying that, that's what our users say. So we are ranked #1 on G2 with Gartner Peer Insights. We just actually received Gartner Peer Insights Customer Choice Award for 2020. That they did at the end of the year, and also with analyst reviews such as Forrester, Dresner, and Ovo. Also, we have a free product. So if you go to trifacta.com, you can actually test this out yourself and get started. So just go to trifacta.com, start free, and you can start using it right now. And with that, I am going to hand things over to Tom and Dharshini.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Matt. So Dharshini's going to bring up our slides and share with you. I'm Tom. I'm the head of operations at Spar International, based with Dharshini in Amsterdam. So, are we ready? Yep.
Hope the screen is visible.
So, what I wanted to share with you to start with, it was just a little bit about Spar as a company, for those of you that don't know us. So, our founding principles and our name comes from the Dutch phrase that in English would say, all will benefit from united cooperation. So the Spar name comes from the principle that by groups of companies working together, we can achieve more than we can individually. And that actually becomes really important when it comes to data. Okay, next slide. Okay, so our mission is really quite simple. Is to ensure that Spar remains the #1 largest voluntary retail supermarket chain in the world. and to continue to build Spar as a global brand by working better together. Better together is all, and the key there is how we come together to understand business and understand our customers. Okay, next slide. So overall, in 2019, Spar sales were 37.1 billion euros. We operated through 13,300 stores across 48 markets. So you can see our overall market coverage there from Russia through China, India, through into Australia, South Africa, and a large proportion of the GCC. We had a good year in 2019. Our sales were up 4.35%. And we started the beginning of 2020 with a lot of enthusiasm. And then came along COVID. So, COVID had a significant impact. Oh, no, sorry. I'll just come back to that. So overall, Spar operates through 5 formats. We have Spar Express, which is small format convenience. Spar, which is medium format supermarket. Eurospar, which is large format supermarkets, and Interspar, which are hypermarkets. And then our 5th format, which is becoming increasingly important to us, is online and e-commerce. So next slide. I was getting ahead of myself slightly. So the impact of COVID, we started 2020 with a lot of enthusiasm. We were hearing from our colleagues in China about this virus that was causing a few problems. Little did we know the impact it was going to have across our business. And as COVID spread across Europe and through into the Africas, we saw sales increase in a lot of our neighborhood and proximity stores. But we struggled with non-food and in vacation areas. We have a lot of stores in holiday areas that obviously nobody was going on holiday. And in some countries like India, our stores were closed by the government because we were in shopping centres. We also lost a lot of sales from food to go and our restaurants and catering businesses. And within our city centres and transit locations, because nobody's going to city centres, so you have a city centre store that suddenly loses all of its customers. And the impacts of COVID really were felt throughout our business, particularly in our distribution and around product availability. And this is where data really comes into its own. Next slide. So Spar did what Spar does best. That's sharing knowledge and insight across the markets. We took learnings from our colleagues in China and understanding what happened with the performance in their stores. We took a lot of data from our colleagues in Italy to understand the movement in their business. And we published an awful lot of best practices, to understand so that one country could learn from another how to tackle COVID and how to prepare their business. And one of our countries' view was that they were 2 weeks ahead of their market because they were able to take the insights from across different countries. Next slide. So data and insights were the key to our response. Understanding through the first 4 weeks of a lockdown in a country, what were the changes in the customers' buying habits? What were the areas the customers wanted to focus on early? And how did that change on a week-by-week basis? So we could work with our suppliers to ensure we had the right product available for the customers when they needed it. And I'm sure it will come as a surprise to everybody. In the first week of lockdown, beer sales were one of the top-selling areas. Okay, very quickly falling off in future weeks. So looking at that allowed us to work very closely with our suppliers to ensure that we had maximum availability for our customers. Next slide. The work we're doing with data and the power that we got through the COVID crisis comes from our Spar Data Services area. And that's really about creating business insights that support profitable growth for our countries and for our suppliers, both through interactive dashboards, which Dharshini will show you a little bit of later, but then also bespoke projects where we can drill into specific information. Next slide. The principle of the project is very simple. It's around creating regional and international insights. It's around collaborating with our suppliers and something that's really simple for the countries to engage with. Okay. Standardize services effectively operates in 4 areas: interactive dashboards, predictive analytics, so looking at machine learning techniques for things like basket sales analysis, customer flow analysis, and things like when bought with analysis. We also do very specific project analysis for countries if they're looking at building a new store to understand what's the best category and product mix for the customer base. And then, very specialized analysis that's very bespoke in nature. Next slide. I wanted to give you a bit of a flavor for what are we doing and a little bit of insight into the challenges. Across our 48 countries, each country operates their product categories and subcategories with different naming conventions. The products have different naming. The suppliers are often different. A Unilever product might come from Unilever, but in one country it's called Unilever BV, another country it's called Unilever SA, okay, and another country it's called Unilever Products Limited. There is no one common denominator that can link that information. We also have to deal with different countries. From memory, I think we're dealing with 28 different currencies that we're having to real time match to create a single version of the data from a global perspective. And then obviously even within the manufacturers, the brands differ. So the brand manufacturer for a particular product in one country can be different to the brand manufacturer for that product in a different country. So we have the complexity of different suppliers, different manufacturers, and different brands to try and bring together. So we have a very confusing data set. And that's where Trifacta comes in for us. Trifacta is taking all of that data and then creating a single version of the truth around and aggregating all that data into a common data set. So Dharshini, do you want to give us some insight into how you're actually doing it?
Thank you, Tom. Yes, sure. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dharshini, and I'm working on the Data Lake project at Spar International. So I would like to start with the principle and the approach which we use for our Data Lake project. So what we do exactly in the end-to-end Data Lake project is we start to collect the data from the partners across the globe in different formats. So we wrangle or clean the data file individually based on the partner level. And then what we do is we then combine the file into same standards. So that means like harmonizing the data so that we can reap the full benefits of standardization. And once the standardization is done, like we do prepare the data specific for the application. So what exactly it means, the data preparation specific for the application is, for instance, some of the partner, they may require cluster analysis, or some of the partner, they want to have a specific dashboard for sales for Middle East or sales for specific Eastern Europe region. So in that kind of place, the data is prepared only for that specific requirement. Rather than just creating the entire data lake and load it into the application, we can just go for
Okay, hello there. Sorry, it feels like we've lost Dharshini temporarily. I'm sure she will log back in. Tom, is this something you could pick up in the in the meantime while we get Dharshini back?
Yes, I think probably Darshini's covered most of this slide. Oh, she's gone completely.
Okay, so I tell you what, while we take a break, while Dharshini finds us again, poor Dharshini must be having some internet issues. Perhaps we can look at a question. No, there you are. Welcome back.
Sorry for that.
No problems at all. No problems at all. Are you able to share your screen and we'll jump in where we were?
Yeah, definitely. So I was saying about the principle and the approach which we use for the data lake project. So what we do exactly in the end-to-end data project is we do collect the data from our partners across the global level in different formats, and then we wrangle or clean the data independently based on the partner level, and then we combine it and harmonize it. And we standardize the data. And finally, we do prepare the data specific to the application. For instance, we use it for the specific dashboard in the Power BI, or even for the cluster analysis, or even for a transaction level analysis for a specific region. So this is the principle and the approach we use in the data project. And the main architecture challenges and the solution which we use is actually, as you have seen here, the files which is collected by the partners are in the different platforms. For instance, they are in the database, they are in the file, or even the spreadsheet. So what exactly we do is we collect the data, and then the main challenge which we face is the data should be stored in the single specific platform. So with respect to the Trifacta, what happens is the data which we collect here, we store it in an Amazon S3 bucket, which obviously resolves the issue of growing data volume size problems and all those kind of issues, since it is a cloud platform. And followed by which we do wrangle the data inside Trifacta by using a recipe or kind of set of steps, wrangling steps. And then once the data is processed, it gets stored in Amazon S3 bucket as well. So what happens is when it is in the cloud storage platform, it can be easily connected with any of the tools. So in our case, we use Power BI. So it can be easily connected using the ODBC drive. So the challenges which we mainly face, the data size issue or the platform issue is resolved. And it is kind of a one place where all the process is carried out. The entire end-to-end process of a data project is carried out. So this is about the architecture which we have currently with our data project. And this is a figure. This figure, it represents the data collection and the cleaning process of one of our partner. As shown here, it is a repetitive process. So we collect the data on monthly level, and then we do wrangle it. And these steps are the wrangling steps. So as a glimpse, I have provided some of the steps which I have used during this process. This is basic wrangling steps like changing the data format or sorting or deletion. So we do create based on the monthly level data and then aggregate it to the partner level data. So we create based on the partner level. And once we do that for every partner, and finally we merge all the partners to create an entire data lake. So this is the place where I mentioned. So if we want a specific dashboard, so in this case it's a supplier dashboard and partner dashboard, we don't want to load entire data into the Power BI, which is a cumbersome process, obviously. So we just take the data only which is needed for that specific dashboard. So this is the overall picture on how the architecture which works for our project. So there are three important use cases which I'm personally interested when I'm working in this project, which makes a lot of things very easier, and also it makes our process a bit faster as well. So since we deal with the different countries, as Tom mentioned, we have the text in the different language, and also the currency which is there in the different countries. So that is also one of the challenging thing when we bring in data from different countries. And the other one is product hierarchy. So the hierarchy level is not in a standard format. So these are the three interesting use cases which I want to demo. And when we go with the first one, this is about the text translation. So basically, I would like to explain what exactly is happening in the video. So basically, we have a subcategory. In this case, it is a subcategory column, which is not in the English language, and we want to convert it into an English language, which is standard in our case. So what we do is we use an external API, which connects it with the data, and obviously with a single step, it converts the subcategory into the English language. So what is the process which is underlying is I'll show you in the video. So as you can see, the subcategory, which is not in English, it's for the country Kosovo. So it's in their regional language. So what we do is we create a file which is having the set of countries, all the countries along with the languages which is used. So we use a specific code for each of the specific languages. So if it is Arabic, we have a code for the language. And this is the only one step which is actually doing the process or magic, I would say. So which actually converts the subcategory column into the language English. So once we prepare the translation input flow, as you can see here, like we have the product names and we have the language code, and then it automatically converts into the English language. So this is kind of a single step, and we do implement it only once, and then we can carry forward whenever we want it. This is especially for the country Kosovo, and it is applicable for all the countries wherever the text translation is needed. For example, it's in the German or in any other language. So only thing is we need to convert it, and we need to mention the specific language code. So this is about the text translation. And the interesting use case, which I would say, is the currency conversion. And obviously, like if we are dealing with the different countries, definitely most of us will undergo this issue. One of the main issue is like exchange rate. It changes every day. And the other one is we need to map it as in the same language category, like it's in the same over here as well. It varies for the different countries, the currency code. But the underlying principle is the same, both in the language and in the currency. One extra step would be like through the API, the monthly exchange rate or the daily exchange rate, it will be retrieved, and then it is merged with our data set. So that's about the currency conversion. So as you can see over here, first we create a data file, which is having the list of countries and then list of currencies along with its code. So basically this file is actually for Paraguay. So we want to convert the Paraguayan currency into euros because we use euro as a standard in our scenario. And obviously it can be adapted even for USD or for any other currencies. So here we do have the exchange rate, and it is converted with the units per euro. So we will normally get the exchange rate, and then we merge it with our currency. So here we want to convert it with the Paraguayan currency. So we use the API for the Paraguayan currency, and it gives the units per euro. So the conversion rate for the Paraguayan currency, it's provided. And in the flow, if you write it, or if you add it to your own country level, it obviously converts the currency into the euro currency. So all the retail selling price of this specific country is now standardized into euros. So this is about the currency conversion, and it can be, it's just kind of a writing once and using many times. So we write it over here, and then we change the Paraguayan country into the different countries when we adapt it to the other folders. So that's about the currency conversion. And the last one is the Nielsen standardization. So we do have the we do have the subcategories or the products which is not in the same standards. So Nielsen structure is something like which is normally a standard structure, and what we do is we do convert the other structures into the Nielsen structure, so that all the data set which is falling into the same category, they have the same kind of standard, I would say. So this process is also again a single step process. We have to write a code called standardize, and then we do manually set up the standardizing format once, and then it can be replicated for all the other flows. So let me show the process which we do. So this is actually the Nielsen standard, which is a standardized format, which is all around the page. and we load the data of the Nielsen structure. And then we have the translated subcategory. So as we've seen in the before slide, we have the translated subcategory data, and then we want to map it with the Nielsen structure. So in this case, if you can see, there is only one single line, which is a standardizing format. So if you have 100 countries, which is in the different format, just when you map it with using this specific line of code, it gets standardized. So everything, all the data will be in the same kind of category. So as an example, I can give you something like if it is for cat food can be canned food or frozen or even the fresh cat food. So it as a standard format, if you want to maintain all around the globe, if you want to maintain just as a cat food, then it can be easily standardized by using this command. So these are the three important use cases which I personally feel, and also I really get a lot of fastness during this process. But once the data is ready, and this is kind of the snapshot which we have, like using the data which we prepared using the Trifacta. So as you can see here, this is actually the supplier dashboard. So this is for one of the specific supplier. So what we do is we create the data only for the specific manufacturer, and we load the data into the BI, which really saves a lot of cumbersome activities. And then when you see here, like it clearly shows the sales transaction of specific manufacturers and their growth, and what's their sales based on the promotion, and what is their growth based on the previous year, and also the market share. And when it goes with the next dashboard, it is again the sales dashboard for a specific manufacturer, but it is based on the division level, department level, by manufacturer level, and the brand level. So as I mentioned before, if you want to create only the specific dashboard, it is easily done through Trifacta to just filter out only the fields which is used in the dashboard. So that is one of the main problem for a lot of people in BI tool, just loading all the data, and it takes a lot of time to load and then create the dashboard. So this actually it reduces that kind of a problem. And this is one other dashboard which is kind of a very interesting dashboard according to me. So it gives the promotional sales details, so how the sales it performs when there is a promotion or when there is a non-promotion level, and how the promotion affects the brands and all those kind of details. So this is actually the end result or end product which we are currently using through Trifacta. And definitely working with Trifacta is really a good experience. And obviously when we are doing this process, and I have personally tried translating the languages using Python code, and obviously it is a time-taking process when dealing with the multiple countries with the different currencies, and also setting up kind of a repetitive process. It is done easily, and it saves a lot of time with Trifacta, definitely. And also when we are setting up the flows, normally we get regular support from Trifacta team when we are setting up. And additionally, for any technical people, if you want to delve more into it, there is really a good documentation for things like the technical setup. So yeah, overall it reduces our time, and this is about our use cases and the end-to-end data project. And thank you so much for providing us the opportunity to present our data project. And if there is any questions, we can discuss. Thank you.
Thanks, Dharshini. Thanks very much. If you'd like to just pop us back to the video screen, that's perfect. Thank you very much. So we've had a couple of questions asking about the slides and the content of the presentation so far. Thank you very much for you three for delivering such a good session, by the way. For anyone who's interested in watching part of it again, or seeing a slide, or maybe you missed the beginning, this session's available on demand almost instantly once we finish. So you'll be able to go back in and rewind, fast forward, pause, whichever of those three things is applicable to your situation. So just before we go into the Q&A, just wanted to flag up a few attachments there are to the webinar in the attachment section just beneath your screen. We're back next week talking to Betfair. We've got a couple more webinars coming up in February as well. So if you've enjoyed this one, do sign up again. There's also a link to a virtual event called Blueprint that will be taking place in March that we're excited about. Sign up for that for some more info and your free ticket. So yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks to the three of you for your presentation. We've got some questions from the audience. Please do carry on sending them in. And I had a couple that I thought I'd kick off with as well. It's really, I suppose, firstly to you, Tom, I think, in terms of people and working with Trifacta or going through this project. Did you need different people with different skills, or was everything already there? You know, obviously, we could see the project was a great success, but was there any kind of tweaking beforehand that needed, or any other kind of changes? Apologies, Tom. I think you were on mute, by the way.
Oops.
Easily done.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I think we started when we started investigating what platforms were out there. We, as a business, we didn't have a lot of data skill. One of the things that really appealed to Trifacta was that you didn't need the in-depth understanding, okay, to be able to actually start to create those flows. So, we did start with a relatively low understanding, and one of the colleagues I had working on it early on, learned it in conjunction with Trifacta, and we actually delivered some great results. The one thing I have seen, Dharshini didn't really cover some of her background, but she's a highly skilled data analyst and data engineer. What I have found is that with that background and knowledge, things have happened a lot faster. So I think the background and knowledge in data science absolutely helps and is important, but it's also not essential.
Okay. And I'll come to you now, Dharshini, if that's okay. You listed a few of the benefits there in terms of the speed and ease, and getting around having to do more complex things. What's the thing that, having done it now, that you'd find it hardest to live without being too dramatic, if it was taken away?
Yeah, so definitely I would say, like, on the overall end-to-end level, if you're taken into picture, for any person, for any data person who is working in this kind of a project, the multiple tasks can be handled like parallelly. That's one of the main advantage, which I would say. And as a normal person, if I want to start dealing with the 5 different countries at a single time, with the different currencies or different level of hierarchy and everything, if you want to set up a code, normal Python code, when I was doing, at least I know the difficulties which is handled by Python. So if you want to set up 5 different countries with a different currency and a different language, it definitely takes at least a certain time, not just in a couple of months. But I would say with this tool, when you implement like a single time, even if it's 5 countries or 10 countries, it is just a matter of changing only the specific country name or the language, I would say. So this definitely increases the faster process, and also a lot of headaches it is resolved, I would say. And on the top of it, when you do write the coding and when you do things on your own, definitely you'll miss out some of the things. And there are certain things which is provided by the AI. The tool is actually having the AI suggestions. So even if you miss out something from your knowledge, you can obviously take the suggestions from over there. So all these things, it makes a faster process. And to be frank, the end-to-end, at least for a single country, if you want to implement along with the dashboard, it takes 2 to 3 months when you want to put everything in place. So that's quite faster, I would say.
Perfect. I'll come to you, Matt. Now, there's a couple of questions I wanted to ask you. There's a question here. I think it might be to Spar, but I'll put it to you, given it's about Trifacta. So first things first. Obviously, Spar are an enormous company. We saw the scale and the operations at the beginning of the presentation. Is Trifacta as applicable to any smaller, medium-sized companies who are watching this? Or do you need that kind of scale to really get the benefits from a tool like Trifacta?
No, this is applicable, and we have customers across the board in various sizes. If you have data that needs to be cleaned and prepared, this product can help. And also, like, you don't have to be a huge company to use like Nielsen data or sales data. So even if you're running, a small consulting firm, or working at a large bank, like, there's applicable reasons. And also the skill set too, it can go across various skill sets. So you Tom and Dharshini kind of described both scenarios. So somebody who isn't fairly technical, doesn't know a lot of code, probably is more of like a data analyst persona, like can get value of it, can use it because it's visual, it's intuitive. You can kind of see things as you do it, and we try to help the user. But then also, if you're more of the data engineer persona, like Dharshini, you saw how she actually integrated code with Trifacta. So like leveraging APIs to do some of the conversions of the language and currency conversions. Like, you can also integrate that in with our platform as well to get an end-to-end productionalized version that will provide value. So yeah, big, small company, you probably got data, it's probably crap. Or like just getting it all to be, make sense together, be able to work with it in one single instance is always helpful. So yeah, if you have that problem, you'd be able to use Trifacta.
Perfect. There's a couple of technical questions you might be able to see on the right hand side as well, Matt. What I'll do is I'll pass those over to you or to Trifacta afterwards, and you can email a response on those ones.
Sure. Yeah, I can address quickly at a high level about some of the security stuff. Trifacta is cloud agnostic too. I know we talked a lot about AWS, but we are on Google, Amazon, Microsoft. So we have documentation on all of the various platforms, so you can dig into the details, as much as you like on how that works. But at a very high level, we natively integrate with the security that's already on your cloud architecture. And in the case of AWS, it's the IAM roles, so we just mirror that. And it's if like, for instance, if Dharshini has access to data and her colleague doesn't have access to that same data, if she shares a flow with that person, or like that data is part of a flow she's sharing, that person will not have access to it, not be able to see it. And if you if you saw in the example, like when you pull up Trifacta, you can actually see a snippet of the data or a sample of the data, so that wouldn't appear for that person. So we inherit the security of what's already in place.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And the last question to you specifically, Matt, before I come back to Tom and Dharshini, you referenced a free tool at the beginning. Obviously, I think we'll have the link as well. You could get the link from Trifacta. What can people do now with that free link in terms of testing stuff out? Just briefly. Yeah,
you can do everything that you can do with the full version. So you can test it out for 30 days. You can try every aspect of the full product. So you can connect to APIs, you can connect to databases, various sources, and actually test it out end to end. So you get the full picture of that with the trial. We also do have a free version as well that's limited to like desktop files that you can leverage. And it's only small amounts of data, but the full trial version, you can actually do everything.
Perfect. Okay. So yeah. So if you're interested, go to trifacta.com and start playing with it yourself as well. So Dharshini, we had a question come in before we kind of go for a more future-looking question, specific about the mappings. Do you have domain experts coming in and helping? And the last one is a multi-stage question. How do you maintain the reference data with the info that you're doing? Oh dear.
I think you got better.
Oh no. I didn't reference earlier, but Dharshini did a wonderful job coming back from a wife failure. Hello.
Yeah.
Did you hear any of that, Dharshini?
I didn't hear the question.
So it's about domain. Do you have any domain experts helping with the mappings, and how do you maintain the reference data? You can probably see the exact wording of the question on the right hand side, if that helps.
Yeah. So with respect to mapping with the products, definitely the domain experts over here, they do help. And when we map the supplier data, it's from the partner end. So they do the mapping of the supplier side. But that is how we get the reference data, because obviously the domain people, which they need to help in this kind of a scenario. But once we are familiarized with that, then repetitive process is similar.
It's probably worth mentioning here that that reference data evolves over time, because actually, particularly from the supplier perspective, when we took on Saudi Arabia, actually the supplier references in the other GCC countries are actually very similar, because they're supplied by the same supplier grouping. So as you take on one country and you add those supplier references into the reference data, the next country actually means there's less exceptions.
Perfect. So my last question was going to be to the two of you. I'll start with Tom, I guess. In terms of the future, obviously it's been I was going to say 2020 was a very strange year. 2021 is not looking terribly different at the moment, unfortunately, from most people's perspective. What's on the horizon for Spar? In terms of data, and where are you going to be taking the work you do?
I'm not sure I should answer this on the Trifacta call with Matt listening, but I think we've come to appreciate the power of the platform and what can be achieved. The holy grail for us was bringing country data together to be able to say, actually, on the cereals category, how's it performing in every country? Because we've not been able to see that previously because of all the different naming conventions. And I think we're only really scratching at the surface of what that can do, because you start to see, well, hang on a minute, one country is performing better than another. Well, why? Oh, they've got different suppliers. Oh, well, hang on, their different range count is different. The insights we can gain are huge. But we have a 4-year plan we will be taking on. Initially, transaction data is what we're working with at the moment. We'll start to take on logistical data, and then commercial data, so cost prices, etc., to start to be able to understand the supplier's profitability in one country versus another. Okay, and then we're going to move into HR data, but then finally bringing in external market data, being able to actually understand how is that a market performing, so that how is that territory performing, so that we can then start to enrich the data. So yeah, this is the start of a journey that will move on. And what the COVID has shown us is the power of insight that we can get from that data across countries to help our businesses grow.
Yeah.
So it's the start of what I think will be a multi-year journey.
Perfect. And I think that's it. Well, I was going to say that'd be a lovely way to end it, but I've actually missed a question from the beginning, and I've been reminded. It's for you, Matt. You used the term CPG early on in your presentation. Could you define that for the listener, please? Sorry.
Sure. Yeah. CPG is consumer packaged goods. So anything that's in a store, the retail. It's retail.
I think we use the term FMCG over here, which might.
It's honestly the same thing. CPG tends to be the US description. FMCG, for fast-moving consumer goods, is the same. Cans of baked beans, you would buy in the grocery store.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, like I said, I think that'll be it for the questions. Thank you so much for the presentations, all three of you. I thought it was great, and I really enjoyed the questions too. So thanks for your answers, and thanks audience for your questions too. It's been a really great session to kick off the year with, I think, and look forward to another one soon. But goodbye for me, and thanks to everybody, and we'll see you very soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.